Hello, Brobs. We're back with Cruel as the Grave. Cruel as the Grave. Aye, you know these girls, when they find out that their pappies have made a little bit of money, there is no peace till it's spent. My girl is taking me out shopping to buy gimcracks and things. I'll be glad when I get her home again, grumbled Lion. Well, she's your onlyest one, and you mustn't be hard on her. My Rachel gets all she wants and deserves it too. Dinner at 2 o'clock sharp, farmer? Aye, I know. Men of my age never forget their dinners, said Lion as he drew Sybil's arm within his own and led her out into the streets. They went only into the back streets and the poor shops, and they bought only what was strictly necessary for their voyage. And having concluded their purchases, they returned to the inn in time for dinner. Sybil was very much depressed. She could not rally from the effect the reading of that book had upon her mind. She frequently repeated her fervent aspiration, oh, that the ship would sail today. Lion encouraged her as much as he possibly could, but he had his own private subject of anxiety. He had not, of course, told any one of his intention to go abroad. Everyone believed that, having sold out his load, he would return home, but he was obliged to stay in the city until the sailing of the ship, and he wanted the fair excuse to do so. That evening the weather changed, and the sky clouded over, and the next morning it rained, and it continued to rain for 3 days. This here will make their road so bad that we shan't be able to travel for a week, even if it does clear up soon, grumbled and growled the self-styled farmer, feeling glad all the while of an excuse to stay until the ship should sail. No, that you won't, echoed his friend and landlord, glad to retain a guest with whom he was pleased. On the third day of the rain, the sky showing signs of clearing, Lion Burners went over to Portsmouth to hear at what precise time the Enterprise should sail for Liverpool. When he returned, he had good news for Sybil. The ship will sail on Saturday. That is the day after tomorrow, dear Sybil, and we may go on board tomorrow night. Oh, I am so glad, exclaimed Sybil, clapping her hands for joy, and she began to pack up immediately. Moreover, I have sold my wagon and horses to a party at Portsmouth, and so we can put our luggage into it and drive off as if we were going home. But we can go down to the river instead and take it across in the ferry boat. Then I can have our effects put upon shipboard, and then deliver the team to its purchaser and receive the price, added Lion. Oh, but I am so delighted with the bare fact of our getting away so soon that all things else seem of no account to me, joyously exclaimed Sybil, going on with her packing. The next morning Lion went out alone to make a few more purchases for their voyage. While he was going around, he also bought all the daily papers that he could get hold of. He returned to Sybil at an early hour of the forenoon. He found her sitting down in idleness. Got entirely through packing, my darling? He inquired cheerfully. Oh, yes, I have nothing on earth to do now. How long this day will seem. At what hour may we go on board this evening? At sundown. Oh, that it were now sundown. How shall we contrive to pass the time until then? This will help us to pass the day, dear wife, he answered, laying the pile of newspapers on the table between them. Each took up a paper and began to look over it. Lion was deep in a political article when a cry from Sybil startled him. What is the matter? He inquired. You know exactly what's the matter. She did not answer. Her face was pale as ashes, and her eyes were strained upon the paper. What do you see there? Again inquired her husband. Oh, Lion, we are lost, she cried in a voice of agony. In great anxiety, he took the paper from her hand and read the paragraph to which she pointed. It ran thus: It is now certain that Sybil Burners, accused of the murder of Rosa Blondell, is not in Annapolis, as was falsely reported, but that she has escaped in disguise, accompanied by her husband, who is also in disguise, and that both are in the city of Norfolk. Now it was Lion's turn to grow pallid with fear. Not for himself, but for one dearer to him than his own life. Still, he tried to control his emotions, or at least to conceal them from her. He compelled himself to answer calmly. Take courage, my darling, we are before them. In a few more hours we shall be on board the ship. Her hands were clasped tightly together. Her eyes were fixed steadily upon his face. Her own face was white as marble. Oh, lion, save me. Oh, my husband, save me. You know that I am guiltless, she prayed. Dearest wife, I will lay down my life for you if necessary. Be comforted. See, it is now 2 o'clock. In 2 more hours we may be on shipboard, he said. Let us go now, let us go now, she prayed, clasping her hands closely, gazing in his eyes beseechingly. Very well, we will go at once, he answered, and he took up his hat and hurried downstairs. He told the landlord that, as the weather was now good, he thought he would risk the roads and try to make a half-day's journey that afternoon at least. And then, without waiting to hear the host's expostulations, he just told him to make out the bill. And then he went to the stables to put the horses to the wagon. In half an hour all was ready for their departure. The bill paid, the wagon at the door, and the luggage piled into it, and Sybil and Lion took leave of their temporary acquaintances. And Lion handed Sybil up into her seat, climbed up after her, and started the horses at a brisk trot for the ferry boat. They reached Portsmouth in safety. Lion drove down at once to the wharf, engaged the rowboat, put Sybil and all their effects into it, and rowed her across the water to where the Enterprise lay at anchor. Now I'm safe, exclaimed Sybil with a sigh of infinite relief as she stepped upon the deck. The captain did not expect his passengers so soon, and he was busy, but he came forward and welcomed them and showed them into the cabin, apologizing for its unready condition, consequent upon the bustle of their preparations for sailing. Lion left his wife in the captain's care and went back to the shore to complete the sale of his wagon and horses. He was gone for nearly 2 hours, and when he returned, he explained his long absence by saying that, after all, the hoped-for purchaser had refused to purchase, and that he had to leave his wagon and horses at a stable in Portsmouth, and to retire to a restaurant and write a letter to Captain Pendleton and enclose an order for him to receive the property on paying the livery. Sybil was satisfied, nay, she was delighted. In company with Lion, she walked up and down the deck, looking so joyous that the men about the place could but remark upon it as they gossiped with each other. The new voyagers took supper in the captain's cabin, and afterwards returned to the deck, and remained on it until the sun set and the stars came out. Oh, this sense of release from danger! Oh, this delightful sense of freedom, and the heavenly starlit sky, and the beautiful water, and the delicious breeze! Oh, the world is so lovely! Oh, life and liberty is so sweet, so sweet! Oh, dear Lion, I am so happy! And I love you so much, she exclaimed, almost delirious with joy at her great deliverance. It was very late before Lion could persuade her to leave the deck. I am too happy to sleep, she continually answered. At length, however, he coaxed her to let him lead her to their stateroom. There, in the darkness and silence, she grew more composed, though not less happy. And in a few minutes after she had laid down, she fell asleep. She slept very soundly until morning, when she was awakened by the cheerful chants of the sailors getting ready to make sail. She lay a little while, enjoying the joyous sounds that spoke to her so happily of liberty. Then she arose and dressed herself and went up on deck, leaving Lion still asleep. The sun was just rising, and the harbor was beautiful. She walked about, talking now to the captain, and now to one of the men, in exciting wonder among them all at her happiness. At length she was joined by her husband, who had waked up the moment she had left him, and got up immediately and dressed and followed her. Oh, Lion, is not this a beautiful morning? And the captain says the wind is fair, and we shall sail in half an hour, was her greeting, and Lion pressed her hand in silence. A great weight of anxiety lay upon his heart. He knew, if she did not, that she was not safe, even on shipboard, until the ship should really sail. And now his eyes were fixed upon a large rowboat that was rapidly crossing the water from the shore to the ship. Do you expect any more passengers? He inquired of the captain. Oh, lots, answered the latter. Are those some of your passengers coming in the boat? The captain threw a hasty glance at the approaching object and answered carelessly, Of course they are. Don't you see they are making right for the ship? The boat was very near. It was at the side of the ship. The oars were drawn in. The passengers were climbing up to the deck. They look like nice people. I'm sure they will make it still pleasanter for us on the voyage, said Sybil, who in her happy mood was inclined to be delighted with every event. The captain went to meet the newcomers. Two gentlemen of the party spoke for a moment with him, and then advanced towards the spot where the husband and wife were standing. They are nice people, repeated Sybil positively, but Lion said nothing. He was pale as ashes. The two gentlemen came up and stood before Lion and Sybil. The elder of the two took off his hat and, bowing gravely, said to Sybil, You are Mrs. Sybil Berners of Blackhall? Then all at once an agony of terror took possession of her. Her heart sank. Her brain reeled. Her limbs tottered. You are Mrs. Sybil Berners of Blackhall, repeated the stranger, drawing from his pocket a folded paper. Yes, faltered Sybil in a dying voice. Then, madam, I have a most painful duty to perform. Sybil Berners, you are my prisoner, he said. And he laid his hand upon her shoulder. With an agonizing shriek, she sprang from under his hand and threw herself into the arms of her husband, wildly crying, Save me, Lion. Oh, don't let them force me away. Save me, my husband. Save me. And that concludes chapter 30. Goodbye. Goodbye.